Janz Town Hall! Town Hall for all!
I know what it is to struggle not knowing whether or not you'll be able to pay your bills this month. I worked minimum wage jobs when I grew up, when I was in high school and when I was in college. And I went from serving burgers at McDonald's to now serving justice at the Fresno County DA's office.
I got in this race as somebody who's grown up in the district, somebody that comes from a working class home. I went to public schools. My parents are both immigrants to the United States. I grew up speaking English as a second language. So I think the people in this district are hungry for a change and they're ready for a candidate that's actually going to work for them.
I'm here to represent you. I think the main difference between me and Devin Nunes is that he no longer works for us. He no longer works for you, and he's worried about protecting Donald Trump. He's worried about his appearances on Fox News.
I think above all else, voters really want somebody that's going to be open and responsive. And what I've told folks is that as a member of Congress, I'm going to continue to be open and accessible. I'm going to pick up the phone. I'm going to take meetings. I'm going to make sure that people feel that they have a congressman that they can come to with their issues and their concerns.
Okay, yeah, I'll talk to my team about it. You know, we have some of the most contaminated water in the country, and people aren't talking about it, especially our sitting member of Congress, Devin Nunes.
Water is one of the biggest issues facing the Central Valley, and I think specifically water security. Last year we had significant rainfall, and many of our farmers here were disappointed in the fact that we weren't able to capture all that water. We have real need for water storage in the Central Valley. We sent millions of acre-feet of water out to the oceans when we could have been capturing it instead and sending it out to our water basins to replenish our groundwater aquifers. You know, the immigration issue is vital here in the Central Valley, and I've spoken to many farmers that are concerned about obtaining the labor necessary to make sure that their crops are picked. We've seen over the last couple of weeks a number of ICE raids up and down the Central Valley. I personally believe this is an attempt by the Trump administration and ICE to intimidate folks from coming out to register to vote. With respect to the dreamers that we've been talking about for the past couple of years, you know, these are people that were brought to our country by no fault of their own. They've lived law-abiding lives. Many of them served in our armed forces, pay taxes, have their own businesses, and employ others. So I agree with a majority of Americans and a majority of people that live here in the Central Valley that they deserve a pathway to citizenship. One of the things that I've been very vocal in supporting is legalization of cannabis. I think that we need to eliminate this underground market, this black market that gangs and other criminals use to fund their operations. And I can tell you that as a prosecutor, I've seen a number of cases where these organizations, these gangs, essentially use marijuana as currency. So why not eliminate that source of revenue from them, and why not tax it? And we can use that money to fund our schools and roads.
My name is Janz. I'm a local prosecutor, and I see every day the first-hand results and effects of gun violence in our community. Enough is enough.
You know, the school shooting in Parkland, Florida was a tragedy, and there's nobody in this race that understands gun violence, I think, more than me. And I think it's time for our country to have a serious conversation about firearms. I'm a gun owner myself, but I don't want to take away guns from law-abiding citizens. What I want to do is make sure that we have policies in place that prevent criminals and other people that are dangerous to themselves and to the community from obtaining firearms. I think that the Citizens United decision several years ago was one of the worst decisions in American history. It's allowed corporations to funnel millions of dollars into campaigns where I think they've essentially bought politicians. I've taken a pledge very early on not to take any corporate PAC money, because I think that we need to set an example for the rest of the nation.
This is something, and this issue in particular, is something that I have experience with, and something that I see every
I've
day.
taken a pledge to do at least 2 town halls a year if I'm elected to Congress. I think it's important that voters have a place to go to vent their frustrations and concerns. I'm not afraid to be yelled at by my constituents. I think that's part of the job.
Hey, Kelly, what are you working on?
You know, it's no secret that I'm the underdog in this race, and I think it's going to take a lot of hard work. It's going to take a lot of voter education and outreach. I'm really excited about this opportunity, and I think that we're going to do well come November.